It's just over 5 months since the Grenfell Tower block burned down in West London. It was Britain's deadliest fire in more than a century, and the survivors are still struggling to recover. Last Thursday, the Metropolitan Police released the official figure of the dead as 71. And this Wednesday, Britain's Finance Minister has promised $37 million for mental health services for the former residents. Many of these are immigrants, and the fire revealed the stark social divide in that part of the country. To discuss this further, we're being joined by Toyin Agbetu of Grenfell MediaWatch. Hello, Toyin. Thank you so much for joining us.
Greetings, Sonny. Good to have me. Thank you for having me here.
So, first question, how is the community doing?
The community is doing fantastic, considering all the nightmares that they're going through. They're going through some very challenging situations, and the way that they've come together and actually looking after themselves, and that's what really is happening. They're having to take care of themselves is fantastic, but the situation certainly isn't as it should be.
Well, we just heard that the Finance Minister has offered £28 million or $37 million for mental health services for the community. Isn't that a good thing?
Well, you see, this is the problem. Yes, Charles has actually made this announcement, but the problems that are being caused, so that funding, most of it is going from mental health services. Well, the actual mental health services problems are actually caused by the government and caused by the council by so much of the ineffectiveness of what they've been doing. So as opposed to actually alleviating the trauma, what they're actually doing by leaving people in hotel rooms, leaving them in bed and breakfasts, continuously seeing them every week with no progress, is that they're actually exacerbating the problem. So yes, 28 million may seem like it's a great amount, or $37 million might seem a lot, but when you think that Kensington and Chelsea Council sits on a reserve of some £217 million, they've had the finances to solve this issue. What the government should be focusing on is actually making all the other tower blocks across the UK fire safe. That's the issue. Dealing with Grenfell is a much more complex issue rather than chucking, which in the scale of this particular situation is actually a small amount of money.
And since we spoke about that, because I guess a lot of people would look at that pledge for mental health and think it's a good thing, I need to talk about your organization, Grenfell MediaWatch. Why was it so important to create this organization, to look at the media coverage? What were your concerns?
Well, unfortunately, one of the things that happens is that the situation with Grenfell has become very political. So a lot of parties are actually using it to score points, to prepare for the next elections that are coming up. And the idea of justice and actually solving the issues that are faced by survivors today is actually being put to a back burner or being used as a political football. So what we do is simply actually analyse it from an independent perspective. I would say we're like a critical friend, but right now we're just being critical. There isn't much space to actually be friendly, because what we're seeing, unfortunately, isn't actually solving the problem. The police investigation, where they've given this figure of 71 out of nowhere, is actually horrendous, because at the end of the day, one of the things that even the Met Commissioner made clear is that the intensity of the fire, as you can probably see in some of the VT footage you had there, meant that some of the bodies were incinerated. Even the TMO that managed the property didn't know how many people were actually resident inside the tower. So Grenfell MediaWatch actually looks at all the information that's in the public domain, and then we sit down independently and come to ideas, talking to residents, talking to survivors, talking to volunteers as to what is really going on and how can we keep this push for justice going when there's so many forces trying to put it on the back burner.
Well, thank you so much for chatting to us, Toyin, and we are going to keep on keep in contact with you. And, as the situation develops in this critical first year after the fire, we'll talk to you to offer some proper clarity as to what is actually happening and how the community is coping. Thank you so much for chatting with us. We've been talking to Toyin Agbetu of the Grenfell MediaWatch, and with that, we've come to the end of this midday news brief. So for these and many other stories, you can find them on our website, telesurtv.net/English. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for TeleSUR English. I am Soini Gray. Thank you so much for watching.